We started that just putting on the fall. We just go right over it and just see through our money.
Okay, we should be live and recording.
Okay. Welcome to the Providence City Administrative Land Use Authority meeting. This is June the 2nd. It's about 2:40 in the afternoon. We're in the Providence City Office Building, 164 North Gateway Drive in Providence. We are also streaming live on Providence City's YouTube channel. I'm Scarlett Bankhead. I have on here with me Rob Stapley, our Public Works Director, and Max Pierce, our City Engineer. We make up the Administrative Land Use Authority. We also have Ty Cameron, who is our City Recorder, Diane Campbell, our Land Use Office Specialist, and April Fredrickson, our Code Compliance Stormwater Office Specialist. We've got 5 items on our agenda today. First one is a conditional use for a greenhouse. We will consider for approval a request by Bob Bisland for a greenhouse located at 1590 Canyon Road in Providence, Utah. And what I would ask is, when it's your agenda item, if you would move up to this table and talk into the microphones. That way, for one thing, it amplifies it, so for the YouTube recording, but the way our internal audio recording works, it records through the microphone, so we need to have you talking so that they can hear you. We will start. You got a copy of the agenda packet, correct? So we have.
Correct.
I jumped ahead. Would you say who you are so that we have it on record?
My name is Robert Bisland.
All right, thank you. And you're the applicant.
And I am the applicant for the greenhouse.
All right.
Conditional use permit.
Okay. And you got a copy of the agenda packet.
I did.
Okay. Diane, if you want to give us a quick summary of the staff report.
Okay. This application was received May 20th, and Rob Stapley inspected the current infrastructure June 1st. On findings of fact, we use Utah Code 10-98507, which allows municipality to adopt a land use ordinance that includes conditional uses and provisions for those conditional uses. We look at the Cache County GIS parcel summary to look at sensitive areas that might require further analysis. Providence City Code 10.5 states that all requests for permits involving a lot that is wholly or partially within a hazard area should be dealt with as a request for a conditional use permit. And Providence City Code 10.3a allows the city to impose reasonable conditions to mitigate any detrimental effects of, that may be caused by those hazard areas. Conclusions of law. Providence City has adopted land use ordinances that include conditional uses and provisions for conditional uses. The GIS parcel summary indicates that this parcel is in a hazard wildfire area. Providence City has the authority to impose reasonable conditions to mitigate the reasonably anticipated detrimental effects of the proposed use, and the request meets the requirements of the codes listed in the findings of fact with the following conditions. The applicant will continue to meet all relevant federal, state, county, and Providence City rules, laws, codes, and ordinances. The applicant will mitigate wildfire area by, and we have a review letter from Aaron Walker, who is the Deputy Fire Marshal, dated May 25th, 2021. This conditional use is for the greenhouse, and I think we're going to discuss the shed as well, as shown on the site plan, date stamped May 20th. Approval by the city of any submitted application or paperwork does not alleviate the owners and or their agents from their responsibility to understand and conform to local, state, and federal laws. Providence City's approval is not intended to and cannot be construed to allow any laws to be violated.
Thanks. Couple of things, Diane, before we get into this on the staff report. We need to change that. We need to date stamp the copy that Bob submitted today that shows the propane
Oh,
on it.
okay.
So you'll date stamp that
I'll do
June 2nd, and then, okay, change the staff report to say that we're approving the site plan dated June 2nd,
June 2nd, okay.
or date stamp June 2nd. And then, quickly I'll just review Aaron's letter. He talks about access, and he says the access is adequate from Canyon Road. He talks about hydrant locations. The fire hydrant number 208 is within 400 feet of all buildable areas, and so that's approved. Talks about the fire water flow. Hydrant 208 produces over 3,000 gallons per minute at 28 psi and is adequate for this type, or excuse me, this size and type of structure. So that's approved. He also references those things were coming out of the IFC code. He also looks at the 2006 Utah Wildland Urban Interface Code, and he's got Mr. Bisland is planning on a steel Class A roof covering, which is approved. Mr. Bisland is planning on closing all eaves and soffits, or with soffits, that's approved. If vents are installed, Mr. Bisland is planning on using non-combustible mesh screens with openings not larger than 1/8 inch. And so all of that was approved. His comments, Mr. Bisland will keep all readily combustible storage items and forage away from the structures. Also, the pasture surrounding the proposed shed and greenhouse will be irrigated. This will provide appropriate defensible space. The proposed shed and greenhouse have been reviewed as a miscellaneous group U structure, and as such shall not be used for any other purpose, including dwelling or sleeping. So, do you agree with that report?
I do.
Means no nodding off while you're out there with your
I thought you were going to say that means no naughty something. I was going to say.
no,
Okay.
no sleeping while you're out there working on the plants. Okay. That being said, you want to tell us just a little bit about what you're doing?
Starting with the shed, just quickly, because that is and isn't part of this, I guess, but I will be submitting paperwork for both shed and greenhouse to the county.
Right.
I talked to the building inspector yesterday, and he said all I would need, it sounds like on both, is an electrical plan, or I would need electrical permit, but I'm going to submit everything anyway. So what I'm doing and what those plans are, there's Rob and Max, I told Scarlett, I ran the elevations of the greenhouse and the elevations of the shed out for you both, just so you can see what I'm talking about. And the big white boxes is the county's got to have a place to put their stamps, so that's part of the paperwork submission. These I was getting ready for the county, so that's why the big white box. That's not a big hole in their property. What this started out is the shed I would like to be insulated. We have a well there that we're going to be putting a new pump in. We've got clearance from the state engineer on using that well. And the type of pump, I didn't want to put a vault in because there might be water, underground water problems there coming because the whole property slopes, as you all know, from east to west. So instead of putting a vault, I am going to have the pump actually inside the shed. It'll be heavily insulated, and on the drawing it looks like a little doghouse, as my plumber referred to it. That will actually slide off, and then on where the soffit fascia is, the overhang on the roof, there will actually be a notch in the roof right there, so if we ever have to, the drill rig can get in to pull the pipe and pump out. And that'll all be finished properly. And that little 32-inch notch will have drip edge and everything, so it'll be fine. Then the rest of that where the pump is at, there's a little 3-foot room, and that will be where the well controller is, and so we can get access to the pump and the controller. So that'll all be heavily insulated. And there'll be a door on that, and then the rest of the shed I'll use for storage for things for the greenhouse, like tools and things. So that's how it started out. The previous owner of that property had a 9x10 shed there, and I'm extending this so it will now be 9x18. So I'm going to, or would like to add a 8-foot by 9-foot pad that'll be connected onto the old pad.
Okay.
So that's like the backup building for the greenhouse, and then the greenhouse is 14 by 26. It'll have electricity, and as I talked to Diane yesterday, I had just spaced out, and the first one you got, putting the propane on there, completely spaced it out. So I apologize for that, but I got it on there in time for the meeting. As far as the propane, Mr. Aaron Walker has not seen that. He's out of town till tomorrow. I was hoping maybe an email had been sent to him, but and we'll just see what he says and see what you say about it. On that plan, we've got a buried 500-gallon tank that the line goes across the driveway, and then there's one of those, we have a backup generator there. It also will have the same, it's got the same 3/4 black steel pipe that the greenhouse would have. It shows on that elevation. So at that generator, there's a secondary, a second pressure valve and a shutoff valve. And when we put the power underground and we're running irrigation lines and things down there, I also ran a propane line down there. So that's in conduit, with thinking maybe someday a greenhouse, and that all the research I've done is that's the least expensive and probably best way to heat that. And without using, so far, the generators only come on once for about 12 seconds. So instead of having that big tank of propane sitting under the ground, I thought that would also be a good use of the propane that's there. That line was, I did call and talk to the fire department when we put all that underground. They said no permits were needed because it was all buried. The propane is in a conduit. It's in, it's a 1/2-inch CST line that's in the conduit, and that runs down to where the greenhouse is at right now. And that was put in about 3 years ago. The tank is 5.5, 6 feet underground. So at that time, because everything was buried, the fire department said, you're fine, no problem. If it was all above ground lines, there would be, problems then. But
Okay.
the greenhouse is the size that's at, or is, I'm hoping it'll be on a concrete foundation, because that's going to be the best for wind up there to hold it down. The design of the greenhouse isn't my favorite, but it's supposed to be the best for wind and snow load. So it won't have a floor in it per se. It'll be a gravel floor and just a concrete wall foundation. It'll have a 20-inch wall that comes up from finish grade, and the greenhouse will sit on top of that wall, because everything I read, and I talked to the greenhouse people, and they said that was the best for insulation and ultimately rodents. Why am I doing this greenhouse? Because after 25 years up there, I got finally last year, after the coonies got all my tomatoes.
Darn buggers.
I just decided to maybe I'll try gardening under glass instead of out in the garden. So I'm actually, instead of raising plants to sell or anything like that, I'm not going to do that. So.
So you got any fruit trees on your property?
Pardon?
Have you got any fruit trees?
Yes, we've got 12 now.
Do the deer pick the fruit for you?
They really don't. The robins like the cherries, and the magpies like the apples, and the deer have removed some of the bark with their horns, but other than that, that's not really a problem. It's the collared doves, the skunks, the wood rats, the ground squirrels, the coonies.
Rodents that are getting you, huh? Okay, thank you. We have a couple of trees. They're dwarf. One's a peach and one's an apple. And the deer get more of the fruit than we do every year, but it works.
We had a peach tree that was just starting to produce and got run over by a truck about 5 years ago or 8 years ago. But we do have another peach tree coming up, but it doesn't have fruit on it yet. But I've heard deer like peaches.
They tended to like ours. So, anyway. Max or Rob, do you have any questions, comments?
I don't have any.
I don't either. That was a very good rundown of it all. So thank you for all your detailed work and explanation there.
I appreciate your packet. Thank you. Diane or April, do you have anything to add?
No.
Okay. All right. That being said, I would entertain a motion to approve the request by Robert Bisland for a greenhouse located at 1590 Canyon Road in Providence, based on the findings of fact, conclusions of law, and conditions represented in the staff report.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Motion by Max Pierce, second by Rob Stapley. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Voting is unanimous. So we will get you a record of decision and the zoning clearance, and then you can take your plans and off to the county you go. So
And how will that show up, Scarlett? Would that be on email? I would just,
Diana.
I will send those to you
Yes.
via email.
hi Diane, nice to meet you in real life. Hi April.
Just a point of interest, the address of 1590 Canyon Road is correct. However, if you look across the street, they don't go that high. but you came to us in the county before you came in the city. So
We did.
you have a county address instead of a
And
Providence City address.
Besides the Coonies for 25 years, we've also gotten calls from truck drivers that are up at the quarry saying, "Where is your house anyway?"
They went a little
Because
far.
they see the
huh?
900s across the
Yeah.
street. So.
Yes. Anyway, I'm anxious to see what it all looks like, so thank you.
Me too. Thank you for your time.
You have a great summer.
Thanks.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is for a retaining wall. This is a request by Brent Miller for a retaining wall, for a conditional use for a retaining wall located at 254 North, 850 East in Providence. Brent, do you want to come up?
Hi all,
Hello.
Brent Miller is my name.
Thank you. And did you get a copy of the agenda packet with the information?
I didn't, to my knowledge. Did I?
Yeah, you did.
I
Shoot. Well, Would
thought
you-
I checked my email.
do you want to quickly run him off a copy really quick so he knows?
Run them off a copy of the whole packet.
No, just the staff report.
Oh, okay. I'll go copy this one real quick.
We'll give Diane a minute to copy that while she's doing that.
Rick? I know you guys are doing a retaining wall on your lot. Sorry, I did your zoning, I'm with engineering.
Yeah. No, this was just a recent thing because of that walkout basement. We wanted to try and make sure that was nice and clean, at least the first level. So we got a bunch of other retaining we're gonna have to do later on.
Way to be on top of it, man. I usually get like an email like, hey, did you get this cleared?
Yeah, no, Rick had told me that this was probably gonna be the process, so I just decided to get it done.
Thank you for doing that.
Sorry about that.
No problem. Okay, Diane, if you want to give us a quick rundown on the staff report.
Okay. This application was received May 25th, and Rob Stapley signed the inspection on June 1st. Findings of fact are exactly the same as the previous item. The conclusions of law, basically the same, except for number 2 indicates that this parcel is in the hazard wildfire and landslide areas. Conditions are
Landslide, not steep slope?
not enough to, I don't think there was enough, it's not 50 feet.
Okay.
Number 2, under conditions, the applicant will mitigate the landslide area by, and he has submitted general structural notes with the application, and those should have been in the packet. This conditional use is for the retaining wall only, as shown on the plan dated May 26th. And the approval by the city of any submitted application or paperwork does not alleviate the owners and or their agents from their responsibility to understand and conform to local, state, and federal laws.
Will you excuse me 1 minute? I gotta grab a call really quick. I'm sorry. Hi, this is Scarlett. Hello? 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 I guess I don't have to grab that call. Thank you for your patience. Okay, thanks, Diane. Brent, did you have any questions about that staff report or any
No.
information? Okay. So do you want to take just a minute and talk to us about your retaining wall?
Well, yeah, it's up there on Little Baldy. You're familiar with that address, I'm sure. But anyway, so the slope of the land, our house design, we put a walkout basement. And so there's quite a bit of excavation that took place there. And it's feathered back by about a 45-degree angle up to the native elevation. But I wanted to retain, it's about 5 feet exposed. With the engineering, it's probably about a 10-foot wall, 8 or 10 foot wall, but 5 foot of it is exposed. And that's by design so that we can have a nice clean area on the walkout so that we don't have, runoff down in there. And there's going to be a pool down there, and we just didn't want any rocks to. A lot of people use boulders, obviously, to retain some of their slopes, but we wanted to have this bottom level be a retaining wall. There'll be a little bit of a fountain that comes out of it, as you can probably see, just decorative. That's separate from the retaining wall, but built basically in line with the retaining wall.
That's what I was going to ask you, if it looked like you were doing a waterfall or something, is that going to be a circulating water feature?
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully.
But it's not, it's built on the exterior of the wall, it's not part of the retaining wall?
Yeah, and the reason they do that is so that if the wall settles or anything, you're not affecting the water flow and how that all works. That's according to Curtis, the engineer.
Okay. So Max, do you have any concerns, questions, points of interest you want to discuss?
There was one thing I was just curious about. It was one of the details, detail 1, shows a guardrail on the wall. Is that your intent to put a guardrail on it or not?
I didn't see that, I'm sorry, but no, it's not an intent to put a
Yeah, it
guardrail.
does say see owner for guardrail if required. So
okay.
I just didn't know if you intended to do a guardrail. on it.
So just so you kind of have a picture, if you pictured this as the retaining wall where you guys are sitting behind, we would excavate, backfill it, excavate back, and then start with some rock retaining walls as per code. And so there would be a little bit of a landing and then, so terraced if you will,
Yep.
up to the native, or the, I don't know if I'm using the right word,
Yeah.
up to the original slope. Yeah.
No, that was the only question I had, Scarlett.
Okay. Rob, do you have any?
I don't have anything else to add.
Okay. All right, that being said, again, thank you for your plans and your details.
Thanks for your time.
Much appreciated. And I'm sorry I had made you do 2 applications. I was just thinking
I did
you were
one
on the
and a
west
half.
side. Okay.
I didn't finish first.
All right. Well, then I'll only feel half sorry.
And it was not that bad at all.
Okay. I would entertain a motion to approve a conditional use requested by Brent Miller for a retaining wall located at 254 North, 850 East in Providence.
Can I just make one other thing? You
Yep.
mentioned a swimming pool. I'm assuming you're aware that the swimming pool will require another permit or whatever.
Yeah, the pool company said that they were going to take care of that, and they have been working with Brick through Visionary, who's building the home. Brick's the superintendent, I guess, right? And so that will be submitted.
Okay,
To you
fair
guys,
enough. I just
yeah.
wanted to mention that. So,
So
okay.
that would be a conditional use also.
So that,
Follow up with Rick and make sure that's the pool company or us that's gonna do it.
I'm pretty sure, yeah, I'm almost positive it's the pool company.
so you're gonna have like a little reflection pool as part of this where your fountain circulates in, and then you're gonna have another pool, or?
Yeah, so there'll be a swimming pool. It's like it's a fiberglass insert swimming pool. It's like 25 by something. 25 by 30, something like that.
25 by a lot of fun.
By a lot of fun for the 6 kids that we have there.
Okay.
But yeah,
I could probably find you half a dozen more kids if you wanted.
I'm sure there'll be plenty of kids now. I'm not sure it's such a great idea,
Mine
to be
would
honest
want
with you.
to.
But the wife, she kind of has the pull around here, so.
A silly wife.
Happy wife, happy life.
There you go.
Everybody knows that.
Okay, so that being said, Max, do you want me to restate that motion, or?
No, I'll go ahead and make that motion.
Okay,
And I'll second
so a motion to approve Max Pierce II, Rob Stapley, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
it.
Any opposed? Voting was unanimous, and again, Diane will get you the record of decision and the zoning clearance by email, and you can get
Okay.
off to the county.
Well, I'd like to thank all of you. You guys are very friendly. I've dealt with some cities before, and you just get kind of intimidated, a little bit. So I really appreciate the willingness to help me through this.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Make sure your job stays clean. That's all good.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's
Well, they were up there cleaning.
according to me.
everything.
For me, that's it.
Thanks.
Thank
See
you. Okay. So the last three are for you, Jessica. It looks like we've got townhome building number 13, and then a condominium building B like boy, and a condominium building D like dog, and all three are in the vineyard. So we will start with the townhome building. We're looking at a conditional use for a townhome building located at 548 North, or 548 through 528 North, 100 East in Providence. And I'm gonna read all three of these, then we can kind of talk about them together in case we run into the discussion runs over. The next item is the conditional use requested by Visionary for a condominium building located at 139 East, 550 North, which is building B. Then a conditional use for a condominium building located at 537 North, 130 East, which is Vineyard Building D. Are we sure on these addresses?
Yes.
Okay.
They're the ones I was given, and I checked them against the recorded plat.
Okay. All right. Somehow, I don't know how it happened, but that little vineyard out there and their addresses has been a bit of a challenge.
Well, I had a call like 15 minutes before I came here from one of our sales agents. He's like, hey, I just noticed I was looking on the parcel viewer, and the county had 2 lots with the weirdest addresses. He goes, and I look at the plat that we have, and all of our paperwork, and it's right, but the county has them so backwards. So he's like, I called and I fixed it. And I was like, wow, way to just take care of it, man. Thank you. But it's like I don't know why this keeps happening. I was like, I have no idea either.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting, because I called in on, is it Chase that you were
Yeah.
talking to? Because when he called me, I was looking up, because there's an address point viewer that you can pull, or an option under the viewer, and you can pull up the address points. And he keeps telling me these odd addresses, and I'm looking at the address points, and I'm saying, no, the address points are correct, the county has this correct. And then he said, no, look on the summary. And so then I clicked on it and brought the little profile that pops up. Sure enough. So then the recorder's office and I had to chat for a few minutes, and she said, well, you're going to have to redo all these addresses. And I said, but you already have correct addresses somewhere in your system.
Well, I think they're right on the actual plat.
They are right on the actual.
So, like, I just think somebody just had typos or
So anyway, they got them fixed.
did a funny when they entered a few of them somehow, but it was just like, what?
Yep, they got them fixed. So anyway, I just was wondering if we were going to need to fix some more, if you checked the.
If we need, I checked them and I went off the plat. If we need to fix them, though, I will call the recorder and sort it out.
Okay.
But as far as I know, to my knowledge, they're correct.
Okay.
We both know that could be wildly still inaccurate.
Did you get a copy of the agenda packet?
Yep.
Okay. Diane, if you want to give us a quick rundown,
Want me to do all 3 or just the first one, or
how would you
just
gentlemen like it done?
There is enough similarity, and for the reason that we're here with the high groundwater, I think.
Okay.
Okay, so the first one is the townhome building. It's a 6-plex, and the application was submitted March 24th. And Rob signed the public works infrastructure permit, or whatever it is, on June 1st. They were all signed on June 1st by Rob. They're all in a high water table area, hazard water table area. The building B, the condo building B, That application was submitted March 24th, and condo building D was submitted way back in January 14th, but they weren't able to build back then because Vineyard 3 wasn't ready. Vineyard Phase 3. They all have the same high water table mitigating strategies under conditions, and that was in the packet as well. The conditional use for the townhomes is for the plan dates. The plan stamped March 25th, and for building B, it was date stamped January 14th, and also the condominium building D was date stamped January 14th. So I think for building B, she originally submitted it in January, and then you submitted it again in March. I think that's why it's dated.
Yeah, they told me, oh, hey, you can submit all these, and I submitted them, and they're like, oh, well, actually, you don't submit them, nothing's ready. And I'm like, well, that makes sense of why we can't get on the agenda then.
Yeah.
And then I submitted them again in March, being told the minimum improvements would be met, but clearly that got postponed a few times. So
the conditions for all three are the same, and the applicant needs to continue to meet all relevant federal, state, and county and private city rules, laws, codes, and ordinances for all of these. The rest is all the same. Anything else? You need to read on top of that? Oh, and the condo buildings are 10 units each.
Okay. Okay. Couple of things. There's kind of been a bit of a misunderstanding, so we're going to make sure that the Administrative Land Use Authority, we only have authority over the conditional use portion. We're not the ones that decide whether you're putting the right brick or stone or what all on. So, and I know there has been discussion back and forth about that. Here's my thought. If you go back and you look and see what was submitted to us back in whenever this first all came in 2019 or whatever it was, all of those plans that we had that went through that process, that's what was approved by the Planning Commission.
Right.
Now it says in there that there are things that can change, and I was going to read it. Let me just quickly read it. Out of the city code, I think it's this one. Design standards for attached and multifamily residential development. And it talks about I think I could go to this immediately as many times as I've looked it up in the last few days or weeks. So it says Providence City, let's see. Under number 4, it says architectural design standards. All buildings within a development subject to this chapter shall be designed and built to the following design standards unless specifically exempted. The city recognizes that architectural trends change from time to time. If the developer feels that the city is not adequately considered a design element or product, the developer may present alternative materials and the city may consider approving those materials. So here's my thought. If since 2019 things have changed, which they probably have, and you want to use other types of things, we need to get you on a planning commission agenda to come in with several more designs and elevations that you want to use, so that we're not kind of having this tug of war as to who approved what.
Correct. So I believe that our development team is working on that for single-family homes. As far as the condo buildings go, we have changed it to show the 30% stone requirement, and I've forwarded those directives with those new elevations to Diane. I also brought a new elevation printout if anybody wanted to see it that shows that it's the stone. So
Okay,
we have changed it to 30% stone, and then it's 30% stone stucco, and there are some like color variations in the stucco, but it's the design should all reflect those requirements in the code.
okay, all right. Okay, so as far as for the conditional use, all of these buildings, well, none of these buildings are, have basements, they're all slab.
All slab on grade, so they don't need to even connect to the
So they're
line.
not connecting to anything. The landscaping requirements and everything are everything that was approved through the planning commission. And we're actually not, we don't even go through and really check and make sure. We just, when the time comes for the final on the development, the overall development, then the landscaping plans will come out again and make sure that everything is in place. But we, as in these three people right now, we're not looking at that. We're just looking at that conditional use.
Okay.
But I just need to throw that out there on the building facades that
No, it's good clarification.
that if our ordinance recognizes that things will change. It's just, we're not the body to go through to get the new changes approved. That's the planning
So
commission.
Scarlett, from my own knowledge, this stuff that Jessica's talking about that she's got there with her, does that need to go back to planning commission then?
Not if they're doing if they're doing the percentages and everything that were approved during the original approval.
Okay.
To my knowledge, this goes back to the original elevation submitted in the development agreement. We've changed it back more to reflect
Gotcha.
that.
Gotcha.
I know some of the buildings and the other development, Prop Gateway, some things have been worked out there for buildings that are already built. And then I've sent in the updated elevations that show going to the 30% stone, everything to Diane for those as well. But these ones should go in accordance with the original elevation submitted to with the development agreement.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Rob or Max, anything you want to mention on any of this?
No, I guess when it comes to on a similar, not necessarily conditional use related discussion topics that are fun to have here for clarification and understanding purposes, the gateway condos have had a lot of changes in their fire line locations and where the fire riser rooms were. And I've discussed it with one of your development team members, and they were going to go back to their engineer and try to give me a true as-built, a good as-built instead of just pencil drawings, so that we could have that on record better. And so I guess my question for the vineyards is very similar, where I think we're using a lot of the similar plan layout for the condos probably, I'm assuming. And if those layouts have changed where the fire riser rooms are being put, and therefore relocating all the fire lines as far as how they go around the building and where all the valving is located for those fire lines. And so if those are going to be changes, I'd like to get ahead of it this time.
Okay.
And have those changes more planned out instead of as built and then trying to come back and figure out where they got put and then draw them incorrectly.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, I mean,
It's just,
pencil drawings, who knows if those people have scribbled on there and then it gets smudged and it's just a mess. So you want to have updated plans for the fire riser room as built on the condos.
right, and maybe they're not going to change.
I was going to say, that's only if they change. If you're
Okay.
building them per the plan, then it wouldn't
Yeah,
matter.
they haven't done any in the vineyards yet, and I just don't know that they've had the same dilemma that they had with all the condos over there.
Okay,
So,
I can look into that. Who on development team did you talk to? Do you remember? Dallas, maybe?
no, not Dallas.
John?
John.
John, okay. I will check in with John and see where he's at on that, and I can double check with our directors as well, and I'll email you.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you. I don't have any other comments for this.
Nothing for me.
Anything from you, April? No. Okay. Diane, anything else? All right. That being said, I would entertain a motion to combine, well, we will, this motion that I'm about to propose combines the last 3 items on our agenda. Since all 3 items are slab on grade, that's what they're doing to mitigate the high water table. So I would entertain a motion to approve the request for a conditional use for a townhome building located at 548 through 528 North, 100 East, a condominium building located at 139 East, 550 North, and a condominium building located at 537 North, 130 East in the Vineyard Development based on the findings of fact, conclusions of law, and conditions presented in the staff report.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion by Rob Stapley, second by Max Pierce. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Voting was unanimous. Thanks, Jessica.
Okay. Did you guys want to look at these at all, just so you could see anything, or are you good?
Actually, if you, did you email those?
Dan has them.
Okay, as long as we got the electronic copies that,
Okay.
unless you
These
guys want to
honestly,
see them.
these kind of print off gray anyways and make you think they're going to be a lot more gray than they are because they're going to be white. So the electronic ones show the colors a little more true.
Okay, all right. Okay, that concludes our items on our agenda. Unless someone has something that they feel like we need to put on a future agenda, I would entertain a motion to
I'll
adjourn.
make the motion, we adjourn.
I'll second it.
Motion to adjourn by Rob Stapley, second by Max Pierce. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Our meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much for attending and have a good afternoon. Jessica, you have any idea who that lady was?
Nope.
She didn't, I don't think she signed in.
But I was still just basking in the glow of a homeowner